UpTake here on AM 950 KTNF. Here's your host, Mike McEntee.
Hey, thank you, Marty. Happy Friday, everybody. So glad you could join us today on your drive home. Twins getting ready to play the Yankees tonight. We hope that's going to be a good outcome. And speaking of surprising outcomes, you probably already heard it today, but our president is now a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
I am both surprised and deeply humbled by the decision of the Nobel Committee. Let me be clear, I do not view it as a recognition of my own accomplishments, but rather as an affirmation of American leadership on behalf of aspirations held by people in all nations.
Of course, the immediate right-wing response, according to many of our YouTube comments on that clip, is, "Oh boy, the president is glorifying himself." Folks, what can you do? It's a win for America, but for some reason, some people aren't happy. Later on the show, we'll be getting your reaction to that. But first up on the show, we've got a topic that is a very serious one in nature. And if you did not catch this earlier this week, the Senate, at the urging of Senator Al Franken, decided to make a change to the defense bill. And now defense contractors that have mandatory arbitration for things that happen between their employees, meaning it's secret, and this is like sexual assault. Right now, there has been, in some cases, mandatory arbitration where if somebody assaults somebody else, nobody else knows about it. And that can be horrifying, and it's a horrifying thing to people who end up being caught in the middle of that. And joining us to talk about what happened this week and why it's important that this change be made is Shannon Drury, who is president of the National Organization for Women. Shannon, welcome to the program. Let's see if we can get your microphone punched up.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I
should state that I'm the president of the Minnesota chapter.
Right. There we go. And I always have to think through that because I'm always tempted to put a "of" instead of "for" in there, but it is for women. It's not just of women. It's an organization that has men involved too. That is, promoting the cause of women.
Men, yes, absolutely.
And obviously, Senator Franken, I don't know if he's a member, but he's certainly one of those folks who believes in that women have equal rights and women need to be protected from some of the things that have been happening. Do you know the story here behind this, the whole amendment that was offered, and can you give us the details? Or?
Yeah, I do, actually. This amendment was actually inspired by Jamie Lee Jones, who, when she was 19, took a position with a subsidiary of Halliburton. And she was sent to work in Baghdad. It was the summer of 2005, and she wasn't there 4 days until she was drugged and beaten and sexually assaulted by half a dozen of her coworkers, at least. Just a truly horrifying experience, obviously. But when she wanted to seek charges against these coworkers, and it's still, I can't even say it out loud, it just shocks me, she was led to a shipping container where she was locked inside without food or water.
And a guard posted.
To prevent her from pressing charges. She was only able to get out when one guard who was sympathetic slipped her a cell phone. She called her father in Texas. Her father called their U.S. representative, who got the State Department in Baghdad to go to this office and let her out. It's truly just shocking what this woman went through. So after all that, she decides that she wants to pursue justice in this case.
And who wouldn't?
Does the brave thing, wants to file charges, discovers that the employment contract she signed forbids her from doing that. It's a binding arbitration in all cases, quote-unquote, related to her employment.
And it's secret, too.
Absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. And she's been fighting it in courts for a long time. The Department of Justice refused to get involved. She just recently discovered that she was going to be able to pursue civil charges. I mean, and again, this was in 2005. It's taken her 4 years to get to the point where she can pursue civil charges. So now Senator Franken brought forth this amendment, which would make any contractors doing business with the Department of Defense, it would ban binding arbitration in cases of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and other civil rights-related cases. And it's important for so many reasons, for so many people who've really suffered, and in cases where they feel like they have no voice. So Minnesota now is really proud to be on board with us.
I want to play a little clip here from the hearing that Senator Franken held, that he was raking the defense contractor over the coals. And I'm not so interested in that part, but it's the information we got from the victim in this case. And she described, I think, exactly why this is important.
They had binding arbitration at KBR. And because of that, and they asserted it on cases like this. And Ms. Jones, in your foundation, you've heard from other women who were raped. Is that not true?
Yes, sir, I have.
And women who, under arbitration,
Yes, sir.
were told to keep silent. Is that right?
Exactly.
And because of that silence, you didn't know about anything like this, did you?
Exactly. I didn't know. It was not public knowledge. Unfortunately. I think it was a very big injustice for it not to be public knowledge. It was an injustice for me and all future mothers, wives, daughters, sisters who want to go to Iraq that don't know about all of the crimes that have occurred overseas because it's been in secret arbitration. It's a big injustice.
A big injustice and secretive. That's the big complaint here. And we've changed that now, or at least we hope we've changed that now.
Well, I hope we've taken an important step towards changing that. And I think it's also very important to note that we have some work to do here at home. There were 30 senators, all of them male and all of them Republican, but 30 senators who voted against this amendment.
Why would you vote against
it? Jeff Sessions argued that it was overreaching into the private sector and that Al Franken was picking on Halliburton. And that really tells us that we have our work cut out for us here at home, too. If we would value the rights, again, air quotes, of a corporation over the constitutional right of an American citizen to seek justice in a criminal court.
This is a big problem. I think this is the root of many problems we have, is where corporations essentially have more rights than people. And when I look through that whole Constitution thing that we put together 200 some years ago, I don't find the word corporation in there anywhere. And I know that the legal definition has done lots of things, but that is a huge problem. And yes, I think that is an incredible attitude problem that does need to be rectified in Congress. So I want to clarify something, because when they talk about this being overreaching, this does not require anybody to change any of their contracts. It just says if you are going to do business with the United States of America government, you are going to have to follow certain rules. You can certainly run your business any way you want to, but you do not do business with us if you don't follow the rules. I don't see that as overreaching.
Oh, yes, exactly. And Senator Franken pointed that out in the hearings, that this is something that has been going on all the time. The Department of Transportation withheld highway funds for states that didn't raise their drinking age. If the federal government is giving out the money, it can set some rules and some standards. And I think protecting people from, silence and the shame that Jamie Lee Jones talked about is a pretty important value.
You know, and I know it's an entirely different issue, but I bet you those Republican senators would have voted differently if there were rules attached to handing out money that might be used for abortions that were federally funded. Again, it is the hypocrisy
I
of
laugh
this.
because otherwise I'm going to cry. Right?
The hypocrisy of this just is incredible, and I think I hope that list of senators is out there. I know it is, and I think people should look it up and put some pressure on them, because I'm sorry, that's not just a decent human thing to do. It isn't, and to condone
it's not, and it really makes you think. I mean, there's been so much squawking about Acorn, and those people were fake. You know, that prostitute was fake. This is a true story, and I'm not getting the calls to defund Halliburton. You know, it's hypocrisy, and it's really tragic, and it ends up hurting real people, and it keeps victims from coming forward. And that's another reason why I just really feel nothing but admiration and respect for Jamie Lee Jones for coming forward. Otherwise,
she is a very brave woman.
Yes, very, very. We owe her a debt, all of us.
Well, Shannon Drury, I wanted to thank you for coming on to help us tell this story today. And the amendment has been attached to the defense bill. It still has to be passed, but I think we can assume that, well, we shouldn't assume, but when it gets passed, it will probably still be part of it. We can hope.
I think so. I think the signs are good. So,
okay.
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate the chance to speak out about this.
Okay, that is Shannon Drury, who is the president of the Minnesota NOW organization, National Organization for Women. When we come back, marching on Tim Pawlenty. What has he done to gather the ire, to the focus of ire of nurses in Minnesota? We're going to find out coming up next. You're listening Quick on the Uptake. I'm Mike McEntee.
This is Ed Schultz, and when I'm in the Twin Cities, I expect two things: friendly people and great food. And you'll find them both at the Louisiana Cafe, the Uptown Diner, and the Woodbury Cafe.
Okay, are we angry yet? I'm serious. You got to watch that entire clip with Franken. If you aren't angry about just the issue by itself, wait till you see the guy from KBR, I guess what used to be Halliburton, sitting there squirming and trying to get out of this. You will get pissed off beyond belief, okay? And the link is further back on the live blog, but you should watch that clip. Again, wait until the show is over. I see you doing it. Now just wait. Wait. We've got nurses to talk about next. And Pulitzer, not Pulitzer Prizes, Peace Prizes, and all sorts of stuff. So stay with us here.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, you'll find the Twin Cities' most diverse selection of stoves and fireplaces. Gas or wood burning, indoors or outdoors, for heating or cooking, the warmth, the beauty, the joy of a fire is fun. The knowledgeable staff at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces would like to work together with you and to focus on that fire, to focus on how it looks, how it works, and how it impacts the indoor and outdoor environment. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces installs with award-winning service. They understand and embrace green design and function. You can enjoy a fire that is right for you, right for your home, and right for the environment. The folks at Woodland will explain the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which includes a 30% consumer tax credit up to $1,500 on high-efficiency wood-burning stoves and fireplaces. This credit includes installation labor, chimney venting, and hearth components. On the web at woodlandstoves.com, or better yet, visit the store at the corner of Riverside and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, skilled sales and service of a diverse selection of out-of-the-ordinary fireplace products since 1977.
From the M950 Weather Center, here's our forecast now for tonight in the Twin Cities. A 60% chance of snow, low 30. On Saturday, a 50% chance of snow, tomorrow's high at 38. Saturday night, partly cloudy with a low of 24. And Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 44. Then Sunday night, a 50% chance of snow with a low of 29. And snow on Monday, Columbus Day, with a high of 40. That's your weather on AM 950 KTNF, the voice of Minnesota.
Here's the latest look at traffic brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Crash southbound 35W just after Washington Avenue. You're going to find all the activity off onto the right shoulder. It is slow, though. Still got a stalled vehicle northbound Highway 52's ramp to westbound 94. That is on the right side of the ramp. You're going to see delays now. 35W southbound from Hiawatha down to the crosstown. If stop-and-go traffic has you and your brakes worn out, stop by Napa Auto Parts this month for great rebates on quality Napa brake parts. Get details at napabrakes.com. Napa, get the good stuff.
If you are counting down on your calendar, it is 141 days. And you say, Mike, what are you cutting down to? The end of the twin season? That's coming up here pretty quickly, isn't it? No, 141 days are all the days we have left until general assistance medical care is eliminated in Minnesota. That is what's going to happen because Governor Pawlenty has unallotted the money that goes to general assistance medical care. And that means some of the poorest of the poor, some of the folks who really cannot fend for themselves, are going to be fending for themselves when it comes to their own medical care. That has our state's nurses up in arms and out marching. And it's going to be happening on Monday. Joining us now to talk about that is a representative of the Minnesota nurses, Stephanie Wells. Stephanie, welcome to the program.
Hi there.
Hi, it is the nurses.
Thank you for having me.
It's the Minnesota Nurses Association. Let me get the name right, correct?
That's correct.
Tell me what you folks are up to.
Well, you know, we are gathering in St. Paul this weekend for a convention to conduct some of our business, but we are marching on the Capitol on Monday at 10 a.m. to let the governor know that we're not happy with the idea of cutting GAMC the way that he's doing. And I happen to work at HCMC, and I've been there for about most of my career, and I've been a nurse for 40 years. So I've taken care of a lot of people on that, you know, who get general assistance medical care, who are absolutely going to be devastated without it. And we need to just take some street heat and let people, we need to get out there and let people know that this is just completely unacceptable. Many of these people have chronic mental illnesses. Some of them are veterans. Many are homeless. 70% have mental health or chemical dependency challenges or have a chronic disease. Many of the patients I see, because I work in both the walk-in clinic there and in the medical ICU, so a patient will come into the walk-in clinic who lost their insurance due to loss of a job. They're not taking their diabetes medicine or their asthma medicine. And the risk to them, in fact, it happens because then on the other side of my job, I work in the medical ICU, is you'll see a patient come in who is already on a ventilator because they haven't taken their meds. And the cost to us then is a couple $100,000. So those are some of the things that we're seeing that we want him to know about so that we can stop it. We just have to take it to the streets and let him know that we need GAMC to continue. We need it to be funded. And I think you're going to see a lot of people out there pretty angry.
Do you think the governor is going to be there to welcome you with open arms?
You know, from what I understand, he is not in the state right now. I'm not sure exactly where he is, but I don't think he's been paying a lot of attention to what's going on here.
Well, I think if you just take a look at any of Delta's flights out of the Twin Cities, you might be able to figure out where he's going these days.
Yeah, there was a good cartoon in the paper about that. So, you know, the nurses take care of these people all the time. It isn't just HCMC that's affected, but both HCMC and regions have served as safety net hospitals. And I think we probably see the bulk of people on general assistance. These are people like you and me. You know, anybody could get a disease like manic depressive disorder or schizophrenia. Any of us are one paycheck away or one serious health issue away from losing everything.
Well,
and we can't go on.
Well, let me give people just a little bit more selfish way to think about this because we all tend to get wrapped up in our own lives. But from my understanding, GAMC, there we go, funds, it provides a significant amount of funding for HCMC. And HCMC has one of the premier triage units in the entire United States. And if HCMC is not getting that funding and is going to end up suffering losses because you're not going to turn away people. It's just not what hospitals do. You end up suffering losses because of it. Our very world-class triage service, which has saved many, many lives, I suspect that might be one of the things that might be threatened by the cutbacks that the hospital might have to make to survive living without this money.
Absolutely. We are one of the few level 1 trauma centers, and yes, we are known nationally, and the care we have provided has been excellent. And this amounts almost to an unfunded mandate. I'm not exactly certain how we're going to be able to continue to provide the kind of care and the quality of the care that we've been able to do. I have worked with the absolute best physicians in the country in my career. I have been very lucky to do that. But we can only provide. The cuts to us will be devastating. They'll be devastating. And that's just to us. You know, that isn't to the people on the streets or the people that we need to take care of, because believe me, if we don't take care of the poorest among us, we will pay. We will pay. And we will pay dearly.
Now, this is going to be happening.
We're paying right now.
But we are right now. This is going to be happening on Monday at 10 o'clock. Is it just nurses who are marching, or are there others?
No. We're looking for as many people as we can possibly get out there, but there will be others. We've got some other coalitions joining us. I believe SAFE and Isaiah are two of them, and some of the other organized unions around the city. I've been trying to get people from HCMC, nurses in particular, to come out and march, and anyone is invited. We are looking for a lot of people, and you know, historically in America, the only way people have gotten the government to listen to them, if our usual channels don't work, is to take it to the streets. That's what we're going to do.
I keep reminding people that is the only reason that we got Social Security, was that veterans marched on Washington, and our president then, Roosevelt, looked out the window and looked at his senators and looked at the wealthy elite who were with him and said, look, folks, I'm going to toss you to them if you don't do something. That's what it's going to take. That is what it's going to take here, I think, to get something done. And Governor...
Well, I think so, too, and we're mobilizing to do that.
And it's not too late. I believe Minnesota can pass something here and still rescue GAMC in this next coming session, but it's going to have to happen awful fast, and the governor is going to have to be on board for it. So
Absolutely.
I certainly hope that you and anybody else that you can wrangle up can somehow have some influence here. By no means are we advocating anybody do anything violent, but we are advocating that people have a peaceful show of force to get a message across that this is a very important thing that needs to be done. If somebody does want to get involved, what should they do? Should they just show up, or do they need to call somebody, or how does that work?
You know what, they can call their legislators. You know, they can call their legislators, they can show up. If they don't want to get involved, another body is another body. And you know, the other thing that they can do, everyone has someone in their life who has a chronic illness. Go talk to them. Go out there and talk to people. Find out what's going to educate yourself. But show up. The body showing up will mean more than anything.
Okay, that is 10 o'clock. Constitution Boulevard, I believe, is where people are gathering, and then you're marching to the governor's corner office at the state capitol to deliver this message. We have been talking with Stephanie Wells, who is a registered nurse at HCMC, and with the Minnesota Nurses Association. Again, the march is happening Monday, 10 o'clock. Get out there and support the general assistance medical care, which is going to be defunded in less than 120 days, and that is coming up very soon. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking again. We have a theme here today, sort of, but it's the people who are hurting the most. We're going to be talking about poverty with Representative Paul Thissen. You're listening to Quick on the Uptake. I'm Mike McEntee on the Voice of Minnesota.
We've all seen our investments and savings lose value in these tough economic times. Hi, I'm Jay Johnson, 36th Director of the U.S. Mint. I supervised our nation's gold supply, and I'm often asked why I buy gold. I buy gold because it helps protect against inflation and huge government spending. And gold is a safe haven asset that has never dropped to zero. In fact, gold has tripled since 2001. Some experts believe gold may be on its way to new record highs. Make gold a part of your portfolio. Call Goldline, a company with nearly $500 million in annual sales. As a former director of the U.S. Mint, I chose Goldline as a client because Goldline has been helping people acquire gold for nearly 50 years. Call Goldline at 800-556-GOLD to receive your free Gold Investors Kit, including important risk information about acquiring precious metals. Call 800-556-GOLD. 800-556-GOLD. Call now. 800-556-4653.
Honey, come here, quick. We have a big problem.
Oh, my God. It's on the ceiling.
Fix it.
I can't fix this.
When the hits the fan, you need Artisan Plumbing and Remodeling, specializing.
When the beep hits the fan, you need the UpTake to fix the problem. I don't know, just popped into my mind.
952-232-6392. That's 952-232-6392.
Here's the latest.
I could try doing my James Earl Jones voice, and this is as low as it goes. I'm sorry.
It's in service. President Barack Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize early this morning, surprising many, including a political science professor at the University of Minnesota, Morris.
My initial reaction apparently was a lot like a lot of people's. Wow.
Professor Paula O'Loughlin says a number of factors likely played into the decision, including a rejection of the Bush administration's policies. O'Loughlin also believes the selection committee wanted to empower Obama for his future international dealings. A second shipment of H1N1 is expected in the state next week. The 30,000 doses will be the first H1N1 vaccine available to the general public. The Minnesota Department of Health plans to distribute the vaccines to pediatric clinics across the state that care for the sickest children. Minnesota's first shipment of vaccines in the form of H1N1 nasal spray went to healthcare workers across the state. Officials say supplies will improve later this month. Weather permitting, today's the last day for one-way traffic on two of the busiest streets in downtown Minneapolis. In an effort by city officials to improve downtown business, Hennepin and First Avenues revert back to two-way traffic like they were almost 30 years ago. Toyota owners through October, visit your participating Toyota dealer for great tire specials this fall. Buy 3 tires and get the 4th one for just $1. Toyota's quality saves you money. With AM 950 KTNF News, I'm Al Verdi.
Here's the latest look at traffic brought to you by TomTom. Still got this problem on southbound 35W at Diamond Lake Road. It's a wreck in the left lane, and you are backed up all the way across the street.
Oh, it's Jesse Ventura now. Okay, I'll shave my head and start swearing kind of funny.
Like eastbound 94 now.
Remember, it's James Janus. It's not Jesse Ventura.
With an easy-to-use TomTom GPS, all you have to do is plug in an address. TomTom finds the fastest route and guides you with clear spoken directions. TomTom.
Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, he's not governor anymore, so I can't make a living doing that voice. 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. You know, they say a rising tide floats all boats or helps all boats go up, but the problem is, of course, what if you don't own a boat? And that's sort of an analogy for our next topic here. We're talking about poverty in Minnesota and the coming, hopefully coming soon, economic recovery. And there has been recently there was a hearing on that, and Representative Paul Thissen was, I'm not sure if he was chairing or he was certainly at the committee, and he joins us now to talk about what is going to be, what was brought out in that committee hearing. Representative Thissen, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
I threw that analogy out there that we've heard often from Republicans that you increase the water and everybody's boat goes up, but I think there are people here, and I think you got a chance to look at that during that hearing, who really don't have a boat, who may be chained to the bottom of the lake, so to speak. And what is in store for folks who are in poverty right now as the economy gets better? Was there any information that we got on that?
Well, I think that the first thing that was revealing to me, and we should know that, but we got some even more information, is that the number of people without the boats because of this economic downturn have been growing and growing. A majority of people in Minnesota who responded to some information that we got have either had a family member who's lost a job or had their hours cut at work, and 4 in 10 people's incomes is going down, and so more and more people are using food shelves and using not having access to affordable health care. And this is not just a problem of inner city poverty anymore. This is all across the state, including into the suburbs, and that's the big lesson, I think, of this current downturn. The good news is that in the same poll that was done by the Northwest Area Foundation and that came to testify, more than half of the people in Minnesota in this poll said they're willing to do more, including paying more taxes, to try to fix this problem of helping people get by.
Imagine that, people actually wanting to pay more taxes to make things better. That's a very encouraging thing to hear, because you listen to some media and you think that everybody is against paying a little bit extra to solve the world's problems, or at least solve Minnesota's problems.
Yeah.
There was also discussion in this that there are divides here among racial lines. I guess that's not surprising to many of us, but the real question is, when the economy comes back, are those divides still going to be there?
Well, and another part of the hearing we had was on some racial disparities in healthcare and a variety of other things. And, you know, that is a real problem that we have to deal with in Minnesota, and we have to kind of confront straight on. I think that as the economy comes back, we need to start thinking of ways that we can make sure that we're eliminating some of those built-in structural problems that keep some communities in Minnesota from succeeding as well as others. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with investing in education. There's long-term answers, but there's some short things we can do too if we just would open our eyes to these problems. And one of the reasons we had the hearing was to continue this process of opening eyes. And I got to give a lot of credit to the people that organized the Commission on Ending Poverty by 2020. We had Representative Mariani and Representative Lanning in to testify in front of us. And really the really important point, which goes to the question you're asking, the biggest takeaway that they took from this whole process, you know, they traveled all over the state learning about, you know, what poverty looks like in Minnesota, was that we can't make this an issue of us against them, or we're not going to be able to succeed. This has to be about all of us. And I think that one of the hopeful things that was reflected in that survey is that because of the tough economic times have hit so many families, I think that there might be more awareness, more eyes opened to the impact that, you know, a bad economy and that poverty and near poverty can have on people. And I hope that that gives us the momentum as the economy recovers to really put in place, you know, affordable health care for everybody in the state. That's something that we absolutely need. You know, as people lost their jobs for the first time, they were kind of in the position of, you know, I don't have health care, that so many people in the state have been living with for a long time. But I think it opened people's eyes again, and we need to build on that.
Now, you mentioned that we have built-in structural problems that we need to overcome. What are some of those built-in structural problems, and how do we overcome them?
Well, I think one of the things is that we have set up rules in how we can deliver services to people to get them out of poverty. But one of the things that gets in the way is we don't allow people to accumulate assets, to start saving their money, so that when they get out of poverty, they have some resources to work with. And so, like, for instance, to qualify for any of our public health care programs, you basically have to get rid of all the assets that you've built up over your lifetime. And if we're requiring people to do that, it makes it very difficult for them to kind of get back on their feet in the long term. So we really need to take a close look at that. And we just and the other thing is we just need to look at the programs we're providing is not just kind of shielding people from the impacts of poverty, but actually focusing on how we're going to get people back to work.
Now, are these regulations that are state regulations, or are they federal regulations, or are they a combination of both here that need to be addressed?
The asset requirements are, some of that is federal, but a lot of it is state. They're things that we can change. And I think that's one thing that we're going to look really closely at. And there's some other things that don't cost a lot of money. You know, one of the issues that Representative Mariani pointed to was this issue of financial literacy, that there's a lot of people who just don't have the tools and the skills, haven't learned them as they were growing up, to actually plan their finances effectively. And if we can get those types of resources out to people, which won't cost very much money, you know, and get them a bank, for instance, we could help a lot of people become much more self-sustaining in the long term.
Now, last half hour, and you may have been listening to this, we had a discussion about general assistance medical care and the fact that it's going to be cut off here in about 141 days. How does that play into this? How is that? I'm assuming that's going to aggravate things and make things worse, or is there something in the works here that might mitigate that?
Well, this is a hugely big challenge for the state of Minnesota, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to affect these folks, you know, with mental illness and with chemical dependency and veterans, you know, the poorest of the poor. And we are working right now on some solutions to get to that. But the thing that's really been striking to me is that it's not just about those individuals who, in some sense, we can kind of turn a blind eye to, or some people can turn a blind eye to. This is going to affect every single one of our families if this cut goes into effect, because, you know, it really is money going to hospitals. And what they're telling us is that when they have to close down, when they don't get this money coming in, yet they're still going to have to treat people that show up at their emergency room, they're going to have to start closing things like chemical dependency and mental illness units in their hospital. And that is going to affect every single family in Minnesota to some extent. And so it's really a significant issue, but we are working on it. And you know what the answer really is, and it ties into the work the Poverty Commission did. The thing that I've learned as I've been working on this over the last several months is that this is not really a health care issue, the GMC issue. It's an issue about people living lives in crisis. And the answer to it is to provide the stability for them to get out of it. Part of that is that financial literacy and all those things that I talked about. The biggest part of it is getting people into stable housing so that they can kind of build their lives. Without stable housing, everything goes south. Healthcare, your ability to perform in school, everything. And so we need a comprehensive approach that wraps around all these services to keep people out of crisis and able to kind of plan ahead a little farther than just one day at a time. And that's what Representative Aaron Murphy from St. Paul has been leading the charge in that, and been doing some great work on it in the State House. So I think that we are going to come up with a solution that looks like reform and is reform, because that's important. I think that might bring some Republicans on board, but we're also going to have to find some more resources. And, you know, in a time of scarcity, it's going to people and explaining that this really affects them in their communities.
Resources. When you use the word resources, we all think of, well, that might involve somebody paying more taxes. Are we talking about that?
Well, we're either going to have to find the resources by cutting something else, and we've already cut a lot of stuff to the bone, or we're going to have to raise some more taxes, yes. And those are kind of the two options we have right now. And I think at least, you know, if you look at this poll that the Northwest Area Foundation put out, you know, Minnesotans are generous, and they are going to be willing, I think, if we put it out to them, to say, you know what, I can pay $25 more a year to kind of make sure that that these people that are really suffering, that are, you know, suffering from real problems, can get the health care they need, and it's going to benefit all of us, because, you know what, my hospital down the street is going to keep that mental illness unit, and I don't know if someday someone in my family is going to suffer from mental illness.
Now, you are a candidate who is running for governor, and you've been out on the campaign trail, I think, across the state. Do people across the state understand that this is a problem, that this should be an issue in this fall's campaign, and do they understand that it might affect them?
They really do. As I go and talk to them, I'm actually calling from Duluth right now. We had the AFSCME convention up here today, which was a great event. But we, you know, one of the things that happened right after the governor did his veto is several of us in the House went around the state and visited hospitals and communities in a number of parts of the state to talk about this GAMC cut, and people really did get it. I mean, this is not just a metro issue. This is a statewide issue. And people do understand and are connecting the dots between how we treat the poorest among us and how that affects all of our families.
Now, I'm switching topics here just slightly, but since I have you on the phone, yesterday we had Mayor Chris Coleman announce that he is not going to be seeking the governor's office, even though he officially had not announced he was. But I think it was pretty well understood that he was considering it. I asked him, "What advice do you have for people who are still in the hunt?" You being one of them, and he said, "We need somebody who is going to win. We need somebody who is going to have the guts to gut this out and actually pull off a victory." What are your thoughts on that? Do you match that that criteria?
I think I do. You know, we started over nearly a year ago with this campaign, and we've been working, I think, harder, visiting more places in Minnesota, talking to more Minnesotans than anybody else in the race, and it has been paying off. You know, people are paying attention and offering us support. You know, but more importantly, I've been learning a lot about what's going on in Minnesotans' lives, and that really helps not just with the campaign, but with being able, you know, to govern effectively out of the really tough situation we're in. And, you know, the issue that people are talking about is what we've been talking about. And it's not just poverty, but it's the economic insecurity that so many families are feeling. And that's going to be the central issue of the campaign. I think, you know, the work that I've done in the legislature fits squarely within that issue. That's where that's where my passion is, and that's where I've been doing my work. And the other thing I'm hearing from people, and I think that this is true, is, you know, we've had so long in this state going the wrong direction that we really need a fresh start, and we need to embrace the future if we're going to win. And that's what my campaign has really been all about, and people are responding to that. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's really tough, but I'm getting really energized by meeting people, talking to people, and hearing the stories of people really changing their communities on an individual by individual basis. That's the thing that gives me really the most hope. There's so many Minnesotans doing such great work out there, and we just need to harness that energy and take it statewide, and that's the way we're going to win.
It's been 30 years since we've had a Democrat or a DFLer in the corner office there at the Capitol. Chris Coleman pulling out, is there anything that you're doing to reach out to people who might have been supporting him, or as he said, thinking of him as maybe their second choice on the ballot?
You know, we're reaching out to people all across the state, and you know, I think Chris has done a great job in St. Paul and is going to continue to do that. You know, and we have been in. You know, we've talked to some people. You know, we've got to let something like this sink in a little bit more. I mean, he had some very strong, passionate supporters, and rightly so. You know, and there's a time that they need, I think, to kind of think this through and recover. But I don't want to jump on top of that. But we are working really hard, and we're reaching out to delegates all over the state to kind of get our message out and introduce myself and make sure that people know where I'm coming from and talking straight to people. And I think that really makes a big difference.
Well, Representative Paul Thissen, thank you so much for joining us here. We've been talking about poverty, but also a little bit about politics, and appreciate your input on all these topics. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And when we come back, we are going to be taking your phone calls. President Obama, Nobel Peace Prize winner. What do you think about that? 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. You're listening to Quick on the Uptake on the Voice of Minnesota, AM 950 KTNF.
For over 30 years, Home Customizers has earned the trust of homeowners in the Twin Cities through a reputation for hard work, integrity, and uncompromising commitment to quality. Home Customizers is a well-known local remodeler specializing in kitchens, baths, additions, decks, porches, and more. Learn more by calling 651-690-5964. That's 651-690-5964. Or homecustomizers.com. Fully licensed and proud to be a certified Pella window contractor.
Resilience, the capacity to absorb shocks to the system without losing the ability to function. We're used to resilience in nature, but can whole societies become resilient in the face of dramatic change? Hi, I'm Mark Summer. Join us this week on A World of Possibilities as we report from Stockholm, Sweden, on a first-ever global gathering of natural and social scientists, considering how we can navigate the rapids of change ahead with enough buoyancy to avoid going over the falls.
Sunday mornings at 6 on AM 950.
Unpredictable, thought-provoking, humorous, and educational.
It's the Radio Cafe, and you can take this cafe wherever you go. It's topical, political, informational, and fun. It's like a good conversation at your favorite coffee shop. And each week we'll feature the Hypocrisy of the Week, we'll play Fact or Fear, and weekly Minnesota trivia during Your Guess is as Good as Mine. Your calls are always welcome, and the coffee's always on.
And the Twins game, for those of you paying attention, like me, I haven't been watching, but it's nothing. Going into the bottom of the third.
Batman and asking for candy. I'm talking about the flu season. And this year, the pharmaceutical companies are pushing harder than ever to vaccinate for the swine flu. Should you get vaccinated? What can you do to prevent getting the flu naturally? Hi, I'm TJ, host of Health Insight. These questions and more will be answered this Saturday when I straighten out the flu vaccine debate. Health Insight, Saturday mornings at 9. Proudly brought to you by Coburn's Delivers, your source for gluten-free, local, and organic foods. Shop online at coburnsdelivers.com.
Stay tuned for a 1,000,000 bottle giveaway announcement. Do you have troubled skin, acne? Well, against the better judgment of our management team, we're going to prove to you once and for all that Proactive works. So if you want to try it, give us a call at 1-800-340-4559 because we're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive risk-free and receive our legendary refining face mask free if you call right now. You heard it. Be one of the first callers. Call 1-800-340-4559. That's 1-800-340-4559.
Here's the latest look at traffic brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Crash southbound 35W just after Washington Avenue. You're going to find all the activity off onto the right shoulder. It is slow, though. Still got a stalled vehicle northbound Highway 52's ramp to westbound 94. That is on the right side of the ramp. You're going to see delays now. 35W southbound from Hiawatha down to the crosstown. If stop-and-go traffic has you and your brakes worn out, stop by Napa Auto Parts this month for great rebates on quality Napa brake parts. Get details at napabrakes.com. Napa, get the good stuff.
Hey, 10 minutes before 6 o'clock. Coming up at 6:05, it is Minnesota Matters with Tupac Tommy from the Minnesota Progressive Project. He has all sorts of things cooked up. We'll touch on those here before we get off with the rest of the show here. But before we go any further, our call-in number, 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. What I want to hear from you is what you think about President Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize that was announced this morning. And this was basically because of his initiatives to reduce nuclear arms, ease tensions with the Muslim world, and stress diplomacy and cooperation rather than unilateralism. There, that's a mouthful. I can think of a former resident of the office who maybe was doing something different. But I wanted you to hear what the president had to say about this, and then I want to hear from you. Here's President Obama this morning acknowledging that he won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Good morning. Well, this is not how I expected to wake up this morning. After I received the news, Malia walked in and said, Daddy, you won the Nobel Peace Prize, and it is Bo's birthday. And then Sasha added, plus we have a 3-day weekend coming up. So it's good to have kids to keep things in perspective. I am both surprised and deeply humbled by the decision of the Nobel Committee. Let me be clear, I do not view it as a recognition of my own accomplishments, but rather as an affirmation of American leadership on behalf of aspirations held by people in all nations. To be honest, I do not feel that I deserve to be in the company of so many of the transformative figures who've been honored by this prize. Men and women who've inspired me and inspired the entire world through their courageous pursuit of peace. But I also know that this prize reflects the kind of world that those men and women and all Americans want to build. A world that gives life to the promise of our founding documents. And I know that throughout history, the Nobel Peace Prize has not just been used to honor specific achievement, it's also been used as a means to give momentum to a set of causes. And that is why I will accept this award as a call to action, a call for all nations to confront the common challenges of the 21st century. These challenges can't be met by any one leader or any one nation. And that's why my administration's worked to establish a new era of engagement in which all nations must take responsibility for the world we seek. We cannot tolerate a world in which nuclear weapons spread to more nations and in which the terror of a nuclear holocaust endangers more people. And that's why we've begun to take concrete steps to pursue a world without nuclear weapons, because all nations have the right to pursue peaceful nuclear power, but all nations have the responsibility to demonstrate their peaceful intentions. We cannot accept the growing threat posed by climate change, which could forever damage the world that we pass on to our children, sowing conflict and famine, destroying coastlines and emptying cities. And that's why all nations must now accept their share of responsibility for transforming the way that we use energy. We can't allow the differences between peoples to define the way that we see one another. And that's why we must pursue a new beginning among people of different faiths and races and religions, one based upon mutual interest and mutual respect. And we must all do our part to resolve those conflicts that have caused so much pain and hardship over so many years. And that effort must include an unwavering commitment that finally realizes the rights of all Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace and security in nations of their own. We can't accept a world in which more people are denied opportunity and dignity that all people yearn for. The ability to get an education and make a decent living. The security that you won't have to live in fear of disease or violence without hope for the future. And even as we strive to seek a world in which conflicts are resolved peacefully and prosperity is widely shared, we have to confront the world as we know it today. I am the commander-in-chief of a country that's responsible for ending a war and working in another theater to confront a ruthless adversary that directly threatens the American people and our allies. I'm also aware that we are dealing with the impact of a global economic crisis that has left millions of Americans looking for work. These are concerns that I confront every day on behalf of the American people. Some of the work confronting us will not be completed during my presidency. Some, like the elimination of nuclear weapons, may not be completed in my lifetime. But I know these challenges can be met, so long as it's recognized that they will not be met by one person or one nation alone. This award is not simply about the efforts of my administration, it's about the courageous efforts of people around the world. And that's why this award must be shared with everyone who strives for justice and dignity. For the young woman who marches silently in the streets on behalf of her right to be heard, even in the face of beatings and bullets. For the leader imprisoned in her own home because she refuses to abandon her commitment to democracy. For the soldier who sacrificed through tour after tour of duty on behalf of someone half a world away. And for all those men and women across the world who sacrifice their safety and their freedom and sometimes their lives for the cause of peace. That has always been the cause of America. That's why the world has always looked to America. And that's why I believe America will continue to lead. Thank you very much.
That was President Obama this morning acknowledging that he was the recipient or will be the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Reaction today varied, and I'm not going to get into the right-wing nuts that were leaving comments on the YouTube videos, but you should look at them. They should be ashamed at some of the stuff that they're saying. This is a win for America, folks. It's not a win for President Obama. He himself said that. It's a win for America, and we should be looking at it that way. That's it for today's Quick on the UpTake show. We have Two-Putt Tommy coming up at 6:05 with Minnesota Matters. He'll be joined by Brian Faldine and Dusty Trice. They may be playing False or False Witness today, which is a game involving Michelle Bachmann. We invite you to listen in. That's it for today. Thank you for listening, and Mom, thanks for watching. We'll be back on Monday at 5.